go.
Work session for this Monday at 4 o'clock.
It's 5:02. All means order. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item on the agenda is Kimberly Huber from the U.S. Census Bureau and the Planning Board's census presentation.
Great, thank you very much. Is everyone okay if I sit since I have this presentation? Okay, thank you. I didn't want to be rude. Well, I'll start. My name is Kimberly Huber and I'm a partnership specialist. And what that is basically is we're in the awareness phase of the 2020 census. It will start in April of next year. People will get notifications in March. But we're trying to raise awareness, make sure that everyone knows that the census exists. It's safe, it's easy. It's really, really important that everyone participates. So, we try to get involved with the community, we get involved with government agencies, libraries, everyone to try to get the word out. So that's what I do. Just to give you an idea of why it's so important, first of all, it's mandated in the Constitution. Article 1, Section 2, for the nerds in the room, otherwise more commonly referred to as the second paragraph of the Constitution. The first one we had was in 1790. That was conducted by Thomas Jefferson, and back then there was about 13.9 million people in the census, and now we're expected to count about 340 million people. So it's quite an enterprise, whereas back then it took 650 people to get it done. We're expecting to hire about 640,000 people. Some are permanent census workers, others are, the vast majority are temporary workers like myself, just to get through the census. But why is it important? There are three major reasons why it's important. Number one, state representation. 435 seats in the House of Representatives. They are decided on the states based solely on population. So in the past, there have been states that have lost representatives and other states have gained them based on population. The only thing that would be worse than losing a representative would be losing a representative because you undercounted when you actually had the population. So that's one of the reasons on a local level why it's so important to make sure everyone participates. Also, there's $675 billion in federal funds that is determined state to state based on, you guessed it, population, demographics. And that funding is for roads, infrastructure, hospitals, schools. It does touch every single person. The last census, one of the most underrepresented groups was children under 5. So just to give you a little perspective, if there's a 1-year-old and they're not counted, that will not get federal funding for that child until they're in the 5th grade. If they're 5 and they weren't counted, they'll be in 10th grade before you get funding for that child. Now, here's the thing, you'll probably get funding, but it's probably going to come from the state of New Hampshire as opposed to federal funding, so that's why it's important. So that's just something to give you perspective, because once this happens, it doesn't change for another 10 years until we have the next 10-year census. Does that make sense? And also districting. Districting, as we know, is represented based on population. So those are the three major reasons why it's really important. So the goal of the Census Bureau is to count everyone once, only once, and in the right place. Data protection. Everything is secure. Census Bureau is unique in a number of ways. I take an oath, so I do not divulge any information. If I stop working for the Census Bureau tomorrow, I would continue that oath until the day I die. I don't have 5 years of my life and $250,000 to give, so that is not the hill that I or any of the census employee is going to die on. So that information is secure, but what people don't realize is it's also secure from other government agencies. That information does not go anywhere other than within the Census Bureau. It is used purely for data, statistics, number crunching. For the census, the 10-year census, the only reason we even take names is because we need to associate them with an address so that we can make sure that people haven't participated more than once. In New Hampshire, we have a lot of people that go south for the winter, so we want to make sure that they haven't participated twice. The information is only released with names attached every 72 years, and that's because when they first came up with that ruling, that was the life expectancy at that time was 72 years. So for instance, the 1940 census data was just released with names. But people only use that for genealogical purposes. So it is kept in a vault. This year, when enumerators go door to door, they're actually going to have electronic devices. So the minute they take the information, whereas in the past they would do a paper, they'll be doing it on electronic devices. As soon as it goes in there, it will be encrypted, so it'll be even safer that way. Okay, just really quickly, like I said, motivate people to respond. That's the phase we're in now. The previous was just address canvassing, trying to get an idea of where people live so we know where we're going to mail things. Then we go into the actual count of the population. People will get invitations in the mail in March. And the first invitation will say, hey, you can actually respond online. For the first time, people will be able to either respond online or call in. Before it was either you filled out the census on paper or someone came to your door. Now there are 3 different ways you can respond before someone comes to your door. So the first invitation will say, hey, you can respond online. And you can go ahead and do that. If we don't hear from you, you'll get another notice in the mail and they'll say, hey, you can respond online or you can call in. And then if we don't hear from you, you'll get another little reminder. And then the 4th reminder will actually have a paper census. And then you'll get one more reminder before someone comes to your door. So it's 5 chances before someone comes to your door, because we'd prefer that people self-report. No one really in this day and age likes to have someone knock on their door, okay? So you will be getting all of these things in the mail. If you have a P.O. box, you will not get in your P.O. box. Someone will drop off a package with an actual census at your door, just so that you know. And then after that, when people do actually go to your door, that will start in May, in the middle of May, and it'll go to July. So it's just a couple of months that people will go door to door, and then at the end of July, the census is done. Which is why we take it very seriously, why we send out all those notices, because we want to capture every single person. And then after that, they do some, double checking to make sure people haven't participated more than once. They crunch the numbers, do the statistics, and then it is delivered to the president's doorstep on December 31st. And then in March of 2021, that's when districting is done. So it's quite a big production. It takes a year just to get the census itself done, and in between that period of time, they're doing address canvassing. Now, it's important to know that the census has about 130 different surveys going on at any given time. If anyone's seen the unemployment rate that comes out every month, that's the U.S. Census Bureau. We have a housing report. There are various reports that come out every 2 years, every 5 years. So there are people, and those will not stop while the decennial census is going on. So people may come to your door for other reasons. So just, there's a lot going on. And this is the same thing. Oh, this is important. I said you'll start getting things in March. Actual census day is April 1st. Now, why do we say that? Now, if you only have one home, it won't matter. April 1st, as soon as you get your invitation, you go in, you participate, you answer the questions. But for some people who have 2 homes, and they may get it, and they go online, they say, where do you live? And it's like, well, I actually have 2 homes. Okay, well, where do you spend most of your time? Well, I'm kind of 50-50. Okay, where are you physically on April 1st? Now, most people, even if they have 2 homes, they have a general sense of which one they actually consider their home or where they spend most of their time. But so people don't overthink it, and they don't have to think about where their car is registered, where are they registered to vote, where do they pay their taxes, where are you on April 1st? So if someone isn't sure of how to answer it, just where are you on April 1st in that census day? Again, I mentioned you can go online, phone, paper, or someone will come to your house. There are 12 languages available if you go online or by phone. We have access to 59 non-English speaking languages. Not as much of an issue in northern New Hampshire, but say in Portland and some places in Maine, or in southern New Hampshire, there's a more diverse community, and so we do have them available. Okay, so this is why I push for recruiting. We always throw out a little push for recruiting because we like to recruit locally. As I said, when people come to your door, wouldn't you rather someone from Littleton come to your door, even if you don't know them, but you know they're local, as opposed to someone from Manchester? Okay? So if anyone is interested in these positions, they're $17.50 an hour. It's anything from 10 to 35 hours. It's mostly nights and weekends because you have to catch people when they're at home. So even if you're working full-time, and it's pretty much from mid-May through July, so they're temporary. There's some training days before that, but feel free to go online to 2020census.gov/jobs, fill in the application. It's also 58 cents a mile if you do need to travel. And it's flexible. If you say 10 hours and you want to do 2 hours on a Wednesday and the next week you want to do 2 hours on a Thursday, it doesn't matter, as long as you fulfill the committed hours that you signed up for, you can do them whenever you want to, and it's 1.25 overtime on Sundays, so it's about as flexible as you can get for a part-time job.
It's the age requirement.
The age requirement is 18. Let's see, U.S. citizen, if you're a male, signed up for the selective service. I believe, let's see, I can actually send you the full list of, requirements, but, okay, so the reason I'm here speaking tonight is that every town, every community, every state has obstacles. I mean, I could throw out some that seem to be nationally, distrust in the government seems to be universal no matter where you are, but each community has their own personal obstacles. So by partnering locally and talking to people locally, you guys can help me out with what the concerns are in your community, and we can tailor something towards that. So that's why we get out and we talk to everyone from churches to towns to, commerce, everyone to, try to capture. All right, and we just flip over this, but just so you know, we have flyers, posters. I'm going to send to you some outreach materials that you can print out on your own and do, whatever you want to do with them. Complete count committee, this is what we discussed before. So when we talk about partners, we talk about, like, for instance, the town of Conway. I spoke with them, and they have a census badge that they put on their website. So whenever you go in, and I go in frequently, I'm from Conway, so whenever you go in to pay your taxes, it's like taxes, dog license, your car registration, U.S. Census, help us count everyone, that's right on there. And we chose that because A, having a town endorse it, people look at it and say, okay, well, the census can't be that bad, the town's on board with it. Second of all, it's when everyone first goes into the webpage so they see it. So getting things out there, sometimes something just being familiar takes the mystery out of it. So when something comes in the mail, you're not, well, what is this? You're at least familiar with the concept. So that's why, we partner with people. And so what I did is I went in and I asked them if they would do that. Now, a complete count committee, which we're talking with your town leaders about, that would be when you kind of get together, if you do it on a town level, you get together representatives from the entire town, people from faith-based community, people from commerce, every demographic and every group that you feel represents the town, you get them together and you kind of come up with a plan of how you want to get the message across to make sure that you count everyone in the town. So the more people you get involved from different demographics, the more coverage you have. The difference between this and a partner is where I said that I went into Conway and I said, hey, would you do this for me? And they said yes, and I said thank you very much. I was driving that. Complete count committee, you're kind of autonomous. You have this goal where you want to get the word out for the census. You want to make sure that everyone gets counted. So you get all these people together in a room and then you discuss what you feel you can do for your community in order to drive that. I am an asset. I can come and talk at meetings. I can give you materials. I can help out. But I'm kind of an accessory. You guys are driving the train because you know what would work best as far as reaching your community. Does that make sense? Okay. This is kind of a fun tool. And this, when you're doing, this is what I use, the Response Outreach Area Mapper. It's really fancy. It's actually an app. You can get it on your phone. It's there 365 days, 24/7. It's not just a census thing. What it is when you first go on to Rome, and you can see census.gov/Rome, you'll see a map of the United States. And you can focus in on a state, a county, a town, even just a few blocks, a certain track, and it'll pop up demographics for that area. So this is where, it can help with the town. You can kind of see the percentage of your community that doesn't have internet access, the percentage of your community that don't have computers. What that can do is that can identify whether or not and getting libraries involved is very good, because if people do not have internet access or computers or aren't comfortable with them, if you want them to self-report, we partner with libraries, and they have census days, where during the census, maybe once a week or whenever they feel is appropriate, you advertise and people know that they can come here and there's a computer put aside so they can still participate online even though they're not able to participate at home. So you have all these demographics, percentage of people above a certain age bracket, and that can help because people may not be comfortable with computers as they age. And also your demographics, you're getting high schools, that's right, schools on the list too. Because you get high school students involved in awareness. When these things come in the mail, not only they're aware that it's important, and they can encourage their parents to participate, but they can also help maybe the grandparents or people that, aren't comfortable with the internet along those lines. So this just gives you demographics, and it's kind of fun. It's great, if you're just doing projects, for kids in school, but that's free for everybody. We also, if people, one thing you need to realize is if you go on census.gov, all that information that we take down is publicly available. All those reports, they're all there for you. So I encourage you to just go on Census website and if you have any difficulty finding the information, we have programs in place where we can help you take out the data that you want and use it. So we do have, data dissemination programs. Also census.gov/academy, that's just an online way of getting in there and learning how to actually access this data. Because like I said, we take it all in and it's all publicly available. So you have access to the results from the 130 different surveys that we have. You can find out how many vets there are, you'd be amazed the information that you can find, and it's all there for you. Businesses use this information. REI in North Conway moved into town, and they use census data to identify, A, is it worth moving to town? B, are we going to have a workforce? So the average age in Conway apparently is 36, didn't know that. So there's your demographic for the people that, play in the outdoors, and since REI is an outdoor retailer, and that's their workforce right there. So they use census data to decide to actually move to town. So businesses use census data all the time to decide where they're going to go, what they want to do, how they want to expand. And that's about it for me. I would say if you want more information, again, we're on Facebook. If you like us on Facebook, posts come on. You like it, so you'll get all kinds of information on everything from the fact that the census is happening to how important it is for hospitals, schools, and that kind of thing. I hope I didn't go on too long. Does anyone have any questions? That was a lot, that was a data download.
I have a question on one of the things in Andrew, in your report, you were saying that you consider exploring partnering with the U.S. Census Bureau for the Complete Count Committee.
Yes.
I saw you mention that. How do you decide who to do that with?
Basically, you want to capture, if you're going to do it on a town level, it's basically, if it's on a town level, you want to try to represent the town. So I was saying, like, represent.
I'm sorry, I think my question wasn't clear. How do you decide which towns you want to, you can't do that with every town, right?
Yeah, we can. We would love every town to take the reins, because basically the only difference between being a partner and on a complete count committee is you guys take the reins. I'm an accessory, I help you in the process, but you guys get together, decide what activities you feel are best for your community, as opposed to me coming in. There's only one of me and there are a lot of towns. So if I go on my own just to partner with people, I try to find churches, schools, town, library. If I get those four in a town, and I get meetings and I talk to them and I get some kind of output where they'll put something on social media or something that will reach the public, then I call that good. But having a complete count committee with a town and knowing that they're taking the reins and they're going to get the information out to the entire town, that's fantastic, because it's so much, I can focus on trying to get outreach in other towns and then checking in with you guys and helping you out along the way. Do you see what I mean? Mm-hmm. So yeah, we would love it if every town had a complete count committee. The state of New Hampshire has a complete count committee. We partner nationally. There are people from the Washington Bureau that are doing that. We partner statewide with different groups. And we partner with everyone. I was just partnering with the New Hampshire Snowmobile Association in Coas County. My Barbie dream outreach is to get little census signs at all the trail crossings. They've preliminarily said they would do it. So exactly, seriously, that would get, I think it's like 36,000 people that they have as members and 2,000 trails. So I try to think outside the box. People are out there recreating and I'm gonna slap a census sign on them. So yeah, so we decide based on who's interested.
So for the process, would it be the board, myself, or someone else that reach out and say, here's a list of people that we would like to get together, or do we just do it and then say our meetings are on such and such a date? Well,
I would say, try, reach out, get representatives. I'll send a follow-up email with some of my ideas, but like I said, you're locally, like I said, schools. I have a whole list that I wrote here, because getting someone from the schools, getting someone from the libraries. You want to try to get representatives. You can always invite people as you remember them, or if someone shows interest, you say, oh yeah, we're having a meeting on this. So I would say the first thing is try to get in touch with everyone, set up a meeting, I'll come to that meeting, and then we'll go over in detail, this is a complete town committee, this is what we're planning on doing, and then you come up with activities and a strategy from there. And it kind of evolves from there. So I would say the first thing is find your representatives. And even if you don't get everyone, if you want to get an initial meeting and then say, okay, well, we've got another meeting, come on in. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
You don't want to spend 2 months just trying to get the perfect people in there, get everyone's schedules settled out. Get as many as you can and just let people know, come on in as we go through the process. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I have another question. Our population has remained the same for how long? Chad had mentioned before, 10 years?
Like,
Way more than that, 100 years, yeah.
yeah, it's,
That's pretty consistent.
We went up over 6,000 at one point, then dropped back down to 5,900.
And
That's actually pretty big for these
so
parts.
I looked up, we're in Grafton County, and that says our low response score is 19.8%.
Oh, yes, let me explain that.
So
The
what
low
is that?
response score is an estimate for us. It's saying, without outreach, if we said nothing and did nothing, that's the percentage of people that would not self-respond. So that's the percentage of people that we would have to go out and canvass and actually actively get them to participate.
So if people don't respond, then how is the population number derived? Is there an estimating process?
No, we go door to door. I like to say I work for the Census Bureau and I have a very particular set of skills. If you respond, I will not look for you, but if you don't, I will look for you, I will find you, and I will count you.
Okay,
So they send people out, in fact, in in Aroostook County in Maine, because of all the logging roads and the low population, their strategy there is they literally just send people out on a certain day and they go door to door, and they actually do address canvassing and counting at the same time. So there are different strategies. But our goal is to capture everyone. Even say, in the homeless population in larger cities, between like March 30th and April 1st, they, first of all, gathering information on where, the homeless live in various cities. We have a list. And then they go out and we literally count on that day. So we have strategies for different population. College kids have a tendency to not respond. I think it's because even though they're there for 9 months, they don't consider themselves residents of the college, and they're assuming that the parents are going to take care of it. And as I like to tell the parents, you don't count them, they actually count at college. Trust me, they will come back and live with you again, but for now, technically, they're living in college. But for some college dormitories, they actually send people out door to door, in March, and just kind of gather that population right off the bat. So there are different strategies. The whole point is we literally want to count everyone. So if they don't respond, if they don't self-respond, we go door to door. And one person can respond to everyone in the house. So if you have 5 people living in the house, one person, the questions are very simple, they're actually very benign. It's your name, your age.
Have the final questions been nailed down?
Yes, they have. In fact, I can send that to you in my follow-up email. It's basically your name, and one of my favorite flyers, which I have in here, which I'll leave with you, is why we ask. This takes the mystery out of everything. It's basically name, sex, age and date of birth, Hispanic, Latino, Spanish origin, race, whether a person lives or stays elsewhere, relationship, how many people living in the house, right, do you own or rent? There you go. So you actually give more information to your pizza delivery guy.
That's all the questions?
That's it. Now, how long it takes you, I live by myself, it'll probably take me about 10 minutes to do it. If you have 5 people in the house, you answer those, and then they'll say, is there anyone else living there? You say yes, and then all these other fields open up. When I say that no information that we take can ever be used against you. Now,
What about the issue that was raised months ago, and I don't know how it ever played out?
the citizenship
The
question?
citizenship question.
Yeah, that was struck down last year. One of the biggest reasons was because it was just too late. They were getting ready to print things. But what I like to say is it's not that nobody thinks that isn't important, it's just 2 separate conversations. As I like to say, your wife comes home and you say, honey, what do you want for dinner? And she says, I'll tell you what I want the neighbors to stop parking in front of my house. And he says, so do I, but what do you want for dinner? We can gather that information, we're just not gathering it in the decennial census. Okay, we have about 130 different surveys going on. It was a ton, so it's not on the census.
Okay.
Okay. So what was I gonna say? Yes, so none of the information can be used against you. An example would be, say you have 10 people living in your house and legally you're only supposed to have 5. Please don't leave those other 5 people off. We don't care. We're not policing. We're not gonna look at it. We're not cross-referencing that there are 10, and we're not cross-referencing with the town records that say you're only supposed to have 5. We want those 5 people on the census. No one is going to come knocking on your door and check on the fact that we saw you put on the census you had 10 people and this house is only supposed to have 5. We do not cross-reference with other departments. Those 5 people need to be on the census. So that would be an example of how nothing that we take can be used against you.
Any questions? Anybody in public have questions?
I'm the zoning officer here in town, I have been for the past year, and one of the things I've discovered, and I know the police chief is worried about this as well as the fire chief, is that there are homes without addresses. There's more homes without addresses than I realized. In other words, the number is gone. And we have a way of tracking it through what we have. And
You mean it doesn't have it's not posted? It's not
a posted address.
Oh, okay.
It's supposed to have it. I mean, we have a specific ordinance that is supposed to be posted in a particular location. There's one street that I was on just last Friday. There are mailboxes at the top of the hill, and then the houses are all down below. Now,
Okay.
my question was, are they in sequence down the hill like they are at
Yeah,
the top? So that was one concern that I think we would have.
Yeah, and I think that's a valid concern. I think what we do in the complete count committee is saying, we've done address canvassing. You can, and it was done on a national level and sent to the states and sent to the towns. I don't know if you guys got that. And then they kind of did it on a town level. Now, if they're not accounted for, when people are out and they're canvassing, a good way would be some kind of outreach to make sure that, if you have a general idea of where those houses are, because when they go door to door, we're going based on addresses, but if there are houses that aren't on the, we'll still reach them. It's not written in stone, we're just using the, like these are the households that we need to go to, but if we get to a street and we have some kind of coordinated effort, we will, say, okay, well, we need to do this entire street, so.
The other question I had, we have 4 sober homes here in Littleton right now, which are group homes.
Okay.
People are actually not delivering treatment there, but they are considered homes for people who are having addiction problems.
Okay.
So when a person goes to that door, there may be 7 or 8 people there who live in North Conway, but they're here right now at this point in time.
Yeah, and basically this question is the same, where do you live? Now if they're not sure how long they're going to be there, if they're there physically April 1st, that's the easiest way to do it. However, if they're there for a few weeks and they know they're going back to that address, it's basically where do you spend most of your, like where do you live? Where do you spend most of your time? And if that doesn't get you to the place you need to be, where are you going to be on April 1st? Okay. In a lot of group homes, we do have strategies in place for them as well, nursing homes, things like that. We have addresses of where all these places are, and a lot of them have been, slotted for people to just go and do a physical count on there. Now that's more of a transient situation, so most likely they'll get their invitations in the mail where they may not get them. But the important thing is even if you don't get the invitation, you can still go online. The invitation has a little number attached to it. The only thing the number does is it preloads your address. So it's a little bit less that you have to fill in. But I could be on vacation in Nevada, and it's, oh, the census, I meant to do it, and I didn't. I go online, I put in my address. They may ask for a cross street or some other kind of secondary verification, but I can still participate anywhere. If you see people canvassing, and you're like, oh shoot, I don't want to come to my door. Well, get online. Get your name off that list. So you can always participate online, no matter where you're at.
Any other questions?
What I'll do is I'll send a follow-up email and we'll talk about next steps and we can communicate via phone but I would start thinking about, like I said, I'll put down some suggestions, but start thinking about demographics and we'll set up another meeting.
All right.
But thank you very much, gentlemen, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
You too.
We just have the agenda to throw up. You want me to follow from here?
This is a legal feeling, just have to take around a few information. and this is just what we have done today.
Thank you.
I'm also going to send you a link that'll have a link to all of the tables that we have, so you can, have resources.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Good to meet you.
All right, so while she's packing up, if you don't mind, we're going to continue on. Town manager's report is next. We're starting with I guess the first item you wanted to talk about was the equalization rate.
Yeah, so just to give a quick background, so the Department of Revenue Administration analysis of data submitted regarding the sales ratio study is complete for the 2019 tax year. The town's overall median ratio is 93.3%, which falls within the assessing standard board guidelines of 90% to 110%. The COD is 21.08 and the PRD is 1.04. They're indications of the assessment's equity. Final indications meet the current Department of Revenue assessment review guidelines regarding statistics other than COD. So there's no action required this time, but what I've been informed of from the Department of Revenue Administration is that we are within acceptable range at 93.3, but we're already at 93.3, down from where we should be at 100. They expect, because of the market, Smith about the market, we expect it to continue to be strong. So we would expect to be out of range by next year. So the Department of Revenue Administration was saying that even if we could get out of our contract to do the 5th year statistical revaluation, they highly recommend that we stay in that cycle. So that's
So that keeps us.
So hold on a second, we're scheduled for the statistical reval this coming year?
That's our normal 5-year
Right.
cycle.
Yes.
And now because I know with the budget committee, we're talking about not only having that, but spending another allotment of money to, are we gonna have to do that as well? You know what I mean,
Yeah.
like the other allotment?
Yeah, so next year we have, we'll have like 2 major assessing activities going on for April 1st. One would be the statistical analysis that was normally scheduled. We were in the contract schedule doing a quarter of the properties, visiting them.
Right, and then the 5th year was.
5th year, yeah. And we did an out-of-cycle one last year because...
Yeah, so that's where I was gonna go with my question. We just did a statistical analysis last year, and how are we 93%?
Because the market just continues to move so quickly.
Well, the analysis wasn't very good.
No, according to, we met with them, we met with the Department of Revenue Administration last week, and they assured, they reviewed everything, and gave us a kind of good quality assessment.
Well, because we're within the 10% range.
It has to also do with the COD and PRD, which,
The COD is out of whack, isn't it? I mean, that 20% is, what's the standard for COD? I don't see anything here.
we have over here. And Phil Bodwell, who is our Department of Revenue Administration representative, offered to come to a future select board meeting to go over that in more detail and explain it. He couldn't make it tonight.
All right. Well, so you started out by saying that the DRA suggests even if we can get out of the
Yeah.
5th year contract, you mean because we just did one?
Right.
Why would we want to get out of it is what I'm saying,
Just to save money.
besides saving money?
That'd be it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And the 5th year cyclical is in our contract with our assessing contractor. So, I'm not even sure that we could get out of it if we wanted to, but they're saying that they would recommend.
They're saying stay the course because.
What does 10%, what does 7% represent in value?
I couldn't tell you. We'd have to have an assessor here to talk about that. I mean,
Based on past performance, we're gonna do another statistical reval, and we're gonna be 14% out of whack.
If we did another.
We just did one, and we're 7% short. We do another one, well, who's to say we're not gonna be 14% short?
So you would be 14% short after another one. This is, so we were at 83% because the market had moved so quickly. So we were.
Oh, prior to that, when we were at
Prior, so
83. Okay, gotcha.
If we
All
took
right.
an increase, yeah, if we took a snapshot at the time it was completed, it might have been closer to 100, and as the market moves,
Yeah.
it continues to
Okay,
divert. The same thing would happen if the market was moving in the other direction, we'd be going over 100%. And, you know,
well, I gotta tell you, I agree. I mean, we're talking, I think, a big enough percentage with value that if we could get closer to that 100% would more than offset the cost of doing it.
Right, yeah, like if you were to, obviously crunch the numbers of the total valuation and do that, you have to remove utilities, I think, from the equalization and do it separately. And then there's also a portion that the state taxes directly to utilities. And I mean, you could take a chunk and figure out what it is, but it'd be significant.
And does that impact the dam deal? Payment.
The dam deal is only impacted if the tax rate was to increase to a certain number.
Right,
So,
okay,
yeah,
so
they're-
that won't impact that?
That's right.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Next up, I have
Well, any comments on that? I guess we should
Yeah,
get
okay.
these things. Any public comment on that issue?
Well, it should be more precise, you know, by speak up more to the, I mean, nobody's here, but still, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, if you people wanna, oh, you got the
Yeah,
paperwork
bring it.
over there?
If you would like a copy of the equalization study, I could give that to you after.
Yeah, you know, it's just probably me or somebody else, it says somebody outside, they, you know, just, they asking for it, at least,
Sure.
you know, just. So they have.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, what's next on your,
Next up, we have a report from the Community Development Finance Authority. So they completed their monitoring of Littleton's River District Infrastructure Replacement Project. That's a Saranac and Amanuset project, and found that the project has been handled well and will be moving forward with grant closeout. This is a $500,000 grant, CDBG, Community Development Block Grant. And the project still has a little over $1 million grant that we're still working on through the EDA. But this is just good news from the grant compliance manager saying that we've handled it well.
so we're compliant, they're moving forward with closing it out? I thought we had to wait to settle a couple issues before they can move forward with
So
closeout.
this work is all done. This is the sewer storm drain portion.
Okay.
So what's going on up above it? So there's additional, work up in the roadway.
Yep.
For a
And
section of
that's
project.
EDA in town.
That's more EDA.
Okay, so that's not,
Yeah.
okay, good,
Impacted. And so we've been able to submit all the costs associated with that.
great.
And just an update on 17 Hillview. So this one is from a warrant article last year that authorized the town to purchase the property at 17 Hillview, which is behind 42 Main Street. So we've signed a purchase and sale agreement. The condition of the sale is to conduct a phase 2 environmental study. We've engaged Littleton Business, Stone Cipher, and Clark Environmental Solutions. Due to the height and width restraints in the building, we were limited to a smaller diameter spot where we could drill down through the concrete. And basically had to hit a couple of locations, but we were able to get all the borings done, and we're hoping to have a report in the very near future, I'd say within the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
Once that's in, we can schedule the closing, and I don't think there's any other action that'll be needed by the board, and
Well, my only question on this, what does refusal mean?
I think that's when you hit like ledge.
Oh, okay.
So they're
We'd rather
boring
get that
equipment.
than oil.
Yeah, right. Well, maybe it'd be nice if we hit, be
Well,
like
if
that.
a tank would do it.
Yeah. So that's.
Not yet, we don't own the property yet.
Oh, good one. Yeah, Captain. Yeah. So that's
Okay.
something. Yeah, next up, the budget, or just, I don't know if anybody had any questions on that.
Just reading through what was found, so it looks like, knock on wood, there's nothing screaming at us at this point.
That's right. Yeah, the soils themselves have to go through final analysis.
Sure.
Yeah, looking good. Budget committee, so the budget committee plans to complete its warrant article voting on December 30th. The time hasn't been set, but we're hoping it'll be 1 o'clock so that we can get it done before the work session for the select board.
What time is our work session?
4 o'clock?
No,
No?
2.
2 o'clock.
They won't be done by 1, by 2. Ours or theirs?
Hopefully they start at 1 and we start at 2.
You think they'll be done in an hour?
Um,
No, you can't get anything done in an hour. Are we, I don't know what the warning requirements are on this meeting. Could we back, if they have to start at 1, can we back ours up to 3?
yes.
My
we can.
day's wide open
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah, my day's not, Carrie's not here.
Yeah, I just need to know by Thursday or Friday and I'll post it.
Yeah, I'm open, if they
Yeah, I am as
can't,
well.
if they nail it down at 1 o'clock, I'd like to back ours up to 3 to give them time.
Okay,
Yeah,
Get through.
that'd be good for me as well.
yeah, okay.
So next up is the server software life cycle. So you remember a couple of years ago, we upgraded all of our servers. And we discussed this at a prior Board of Selectmen work session. So on January 14th, 2020, support for Windows Server 2008 and 2008 R2 will end. So this means the end of regular security updates. The board voted to utilize the $27,000 needed for server upgrades from the state surplus funds. SNS further analyzed the project, determined that there are other needs, including the exchange server, which is our email server, at $17,689. And additional firewall upgrades for each location estimated at $3,872. In addition, there are somewhat more modest costs involving license extension to all PCs that continue to run Windows 7. We're working with SNS to refine and determine the best process to find funds for that. So one of the things we're doing is all of our computers, not all of them, but quite a few of them are on Windows 2007. We found out that for $50 we can continue their license for 1 more year, which will give us time to plan for upgrading the rest of those. So that's what we're planning.
So they're running Windows 7.
Right.
They'll continue the license, but will we get the patch, the protection, security protection?
Yes, we do it for 1 year.
For 50
That's
bucks?
$50.
Okay,
Yeah, and
that's,
You per unit.
that's,
Yeah, per unit. It's a lot cheaper than
Yeah.
paying for the upgrade.
Okay.
It gives us time to plan. As for the other $17,689, we're reviewing right now to see if we can allocate those expenses by department and then look at the end of year on our work session day, if there's leftover funds in the budget to have the select board consider dedicating some of those towards that cost. Same thing with the firewall upgrades that they're saying we need to do.
yeah, so this would have been good information to have when we had the money to distribute. The 27,000 that we approved, did we specify that that was going to something in particular, or is that just, was it general computer?
To the server, yes.
Server,
updates,
okay.
yeah. But this is additional money. I had a meeting with them last week where they basically laid out what has to be done.
So so this 17,689 is over and above the initial estimate of 27,000?
That's correct, yeah. And
As well as 3872 for firewall upgrades.
yeah, and these are items that we can't not do. It would,
Yeah, I'm just, can we do the server and firewall and get extensions for all the computers and then figure out how to deal with it if we don't have money at the end of the line?
that's
We
right.
know we've got enough money to do the absolutely critical stuff.
Well, the 17,689 is also critical. That's our email server.
I'm sorry, that's what I was
Oh,
calling
yeah,
critical.
yeah, okay, yeah, good. Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
calling that and the 3872.
Mhm,
So that's 21,000 bucks,
mhm.
21 and a half.
Right.
So we know we've got enough to do that.
That's in addition, that
This is
21
in
is in
addition to
addition to
27.
27. So, well, yeah,
I understand, but that 27 was intended to be for all of the,
oh, right, you're thinking of the surplus funds. So what
Yeah.
Karen and I have been working on right now is we're going through and looking at where we're at year to date and trying to make a projected surplus of the town money. So
oh, okay.
if there's a budget where we underspent, for the board to consider dedicating those funds to this upgrades.
Are you gonna have a total budget figure from SNS at some point?
I'm hoping this is it, so, Yeah.
Well, hold on a second. So you're hoping that it's 27 plus the 17 plus the 38
For all upgrades.
for all upgrades?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you said they were giving you more quotes on something else.
What we were trying to do is also just, we have quotes for other items, but we were able to say these aren't critical. We're gonna work on these.
Like the body cams for the police department.
Some, yeah, other, like there's I think some other server upgrades that were needed, I think for, maybe it was police department, I have to go back through, but I basically for next to anything that wasn't required, these were the remaining pieces.
Okay. Who's deciding what's the critical with respect to the technology?
SNS.
Okay.
Yeah, basically ask them like which one is gonna shut, what could shut us down,
Yeah.
what could live on.
Okay, so they're doing that part. It's not a matter of our political budget approach. It's,
Right.
they're telling us what the critical items are.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions or on that, or?
No.
Okay. All right, good. Next up is the EMS interfacility transfers. So we're continuing a planning and collaboration effort to develop a proposal for consideration by Littleton Regional Hospital and the Board of Selectmen likely early next year. And right now, we're working with Municipal Resources Incorporated to take the concept that both parties have presented and turn it into an actual document that would create a working
Okay.
platform. So, the Plan New Hampshire Design Charrette, the presentation from Plan New Hampshire has been up on the website for some time, but this past week, they've actually submitted the final report, which goes into great detail about the project. That's available on the website. We'll have that posted for everybody to take a look at. There is a warrant article specifically dealing with that this coming year, which involves the River District and parking improvements and acquisition of the Monroe property. And that's what I have for today.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda is old business. Do we have old business to address?
There's plenty of old business out there. We don't have any actions needed tonight.
Okay.
I see that Roger's here. I could just tell you an update on where Mill Street parking is at.
Yeah, that's fine. I've got one other item that I wanted to,
Okay.
I don't know if we're dealing with it, but I just want to ask about it, so go ahead.
Yeah, so at an earlier meeting, the board had authorized the creation of 2 short-term parking spaces on Mill Street. We've since been working with the abutting property owners and our engineers at CMA for the Safe Routes to School project and at Dufresne Group for the sewer project, trying to make sure everything's aligned. One of the abutting property owners has agreed, based on the engineer's recommendation, to provide us with a permanent easement that would allow us to continue to use one of the concrete existing sidewalks of private property as our sidewalk, which will give us the widths needed for travelway and short-term parking. So right now, we have information or a request for information from our engineer to provide a legal description of the space to our attorney to draft the easement paperwork for the property owner to sign. Before we would execute that, we come back to the board for your final review of where those spaces are. And I have to check in to see
The
if
public hearings on
I
that?
think, yeah, the easements would meet the RSA, that 4114A process.
Assuming that happens, how are we dealing, so what is the end result of what we would be doing with parking? Those short-term
Yeah, for
parking
the short term,
spots?
so the proposed space, there's 2 spaces that would be directly in front of the Doug Frizzell's building.
Where the hash lines are right now?
Yep.
It would be in front of where the shell of the brewery is, I thought is what was.
No, so we looked over there and there were some challenges by putting it on that side of the road. Involved, everything from snow to just the way the traffic flows. So we took a look at putting them across the other side where they used to be all the way up the road, but just in that one area. And the widths and everything worked.
So is that what precipitated the the easement for the sidewalk.
Yep, and then so we, asked the landowner if he mind providing an easement, because it would allow us to do this for the short term, but we have.
So it makes our total space wider.
Yeah, and we're also looking at if that would save us money in the TAP project, because the sidewalk's already there.
Yeah. How, have you determined, been a long day, I can't think of words. The striping that's there and all that stuff, have we determined how you're gonna address that?
Yeah, so we were looking at I forget what it's called, but it's a thermoplastic process. And since we don't have funds set aside for it, the property owner, the abutting property owner has authorized, he said he would reimburse the town up to a certain amount, about $1,000, so, for that
And you
process.
think that'll do that?
We don't know yet, we're
Yeah, okay.
looking at it. Our engineers that working with us, he's out on vacation, so.
Just Doug Frizzelli, take it,
Yeah.
the only reason I ask is because I've actually, since that meeting that we've had, I've talked with almost all of the other building owners and business owners down there, and they've got a lot of concerns about adding this additional parking, just because it's a really unique street when you think about it. It's one way, it appears wide, but it's slanting, and they're really concerned, both about travel way, but also pedestrians. For instance, that paint that we have right now on the crosswalks is so slippery when it gets wet that people end up walking in the middle. They're walking in the middle of the road all the time. They don't even walk on the crosswalk because the paint, especially in the winter with the snow and the water, just gets extra slippery. People are constantly falling as they walk down on that crosswalk. So they actually, and Doug knows about this as well.
Yes,
but,
okay.
and, in the future, they obviously, it would be great. They're gonna, hope to put sand down and such like this, and other, you can mix with the paint, and they know more about that stuff than I do. But between that and deliveries, whether it's at Chudder's or at Schilling's, to add in the parking, they have the stakeholders down there have a lot. They see a lot of stuff. We can put stuff on paper all day, but they're the ones that are actually down there right now. And I would really like to kind of put it on hold for now until maybe if we can get all of the stakeholders in a room and really look and say, come up with this, present this plan to them, because this is what's really, this affects their livelihood.
Well, we have one of them here, let's hear from what he has to say.
Well, we all sat down months ago, all the stakeholders, and agreed to no parking on Mill Street. But it seems like there's been a bartering system for 2 parking spots, and it's affecting the rest of us. I mean, I've got picture after picture of that road being blocked, where no emergency personnel can get through, no fire trucks, ambulances, nothing. It's gonna make the town a big lawsuit if something happens. It's gotta stay open for traffic. All those other places down there, you can walk in and get a coffee, you can walk in and get a donut. You can't walk in and get an oil change. I need to keep the street open to keep my business going. And for somebody to say they've lost 35% of their business that hasn't been there for a year, how do they know that? I've been there 25 years. I can tell you how much it's affecting me. When my customers call and say they can't get there. So something's got to change.
Well, so you're looking for some sort of change to what's there now?
No, it's nice if it would get, if people that did park on the side would get some kind of a ticket and not a $10 ticket, because if it was left open, everybody'd be fine. One thing I'm seeing is the breweries putting all the beer out in front of the garage door where they can't get the trucks in to put the stuff in the trucks. They have to load them in the street. I've got picture after picture if you'd like to see them.
I would. I'd like to see those. Not now, but if you
okay, yeah.
I would like to see them, because I got pictures of deliveries being made on both sides and vehicles driving right through. So
I've seen that also.
I'd like to see what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I personally haven't, I've driven down there multiple times, different times of the day, and I know it's hit or miss. I mean, if I happen to follow a delivery truck down there, the wrong one, I'd get stuck. But I have yet to not be able to get through. So I'm not saying it's not an issue, but I've yet to face it. And I go through there often just because I want to go through and see what's going on.
Right.
It seems like our approach to this, because we keep putting it off because of the project that was gonna come that now is a couple of years away in all likelihood. So now it's every time, the last person who talks to us is the person who has the most influence on what's going on there. I go down through there and I don't see, to be honest with you, the temporary parking at that end of the street, right there, I just don't see how that is gonna impact the delivery process. The deliveries are farther up the street, so they're gonna get past that anyways. I understand if it was farther up, but where you're talking about doing it, I don't see how it's gonna adversely impact the traffic going through there. To my knowledge, I'm not gonna speak for the chief or the police chief who's here, and I'd certainly like to hear from you, or the fire chief, but to my knowledge in the past, they've said they haven't, obviously if there was a fire, it's a different story, but the police have not aren't aware of issues. I don't wanna put words in your mouth, chief, but you're not getting, last I knew, you weren't getting a lot of calls for problems down there with traffic. Is that still the case, or is that not the case?
I'm not getting direct complaints. So when we get a complaint, we do respond. A lot of complaints come in after the fact, and it's hard to address. The parking issues realistically, people gotta park somewhere. And you tried no parking, can't be fixed through enforcement. This needs to be this isn't gonna be fixed by us writing parking tickets or enforcement. This is a design issue that, quite frankly, you guys need to figure out, and then we will deal with it after the fact, but we'd like to be part of the process. The delivery issue is, there have been some deliveries, not a lot, but I know of some deliveries where they did block the road. And when we were called there, we did reroute traffic so that it would get to the appropriate location when we were called there. And we've asked some of the people down there to contact us if in fact they did have a delivery so that we could reroute when we have somebody available. Ultimately, we, by ordinance, reserve the right to allow people to park improperly short-term to allow for deliveries. It occurs on Main Street, it occurs on Pleasant Street. There are other locations throughout the community that does happen. It's not a black and white ordinance. There is some, we have ability for some discretion by the ordinance to allow those deliveries if they're not completely blocking the road. But it is a long-term issue. And obviously you have a merchant here or a person here who has been directly impacted by lack of planning that has occurred down there. And so, I'll work with you, but this issue cannot be fixed through enforcement unless you want to assign somebody. We can assign somebody down there Monday through Friday. Certainly it's going to be pretty costly, but we can do that too. But we have the entire. I don't want to sugarcoat this for Roger or anybody else. I mean, if I were to sit here and say, yeah, we'll take care of the issue, that's not being realistic. And like I said, it can't be realistically addressed through enforcement. This is a planning issue. This needs to be the roadway needs to be properly engineered so that we don't have these issues that Roger complains about, because they do exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I certainly agree with that. Unfortunately, we don't have that luxury right now, right? I mean, that project was supposed to address that issue, and we can't do the project.
Well, I mean, we have engineers, right, professional traffic engineers on this right now. That's who's coming up with the suggested location.
But nonetheless, it's going to be hopefully a short-term solution, because that project, I keep forgetting which acronym that project is. The TAP project, hopefully will come through a year later than what we were hoping, but nonetheless, it may change. But I think for the I personally, I voted against this before because I wanted to know what the solution was first. And the board approved it. I was outvoted. Now I'm seeing the solution and I'm thinking, I just don't see the cars temporary parking that far up the road causing problems with deliveries. Because whether those cars are there or not, where the jam up in deliveries, as I've been told, because I haven't seen it, where the jam up is gonna still be there. It's not, has nothing to do with the temporary parking.
It's both places because
Because you also have the Schilling's Restaurant as well, that
Right.
receives deliveries down.
they,
on that
they try
road.
to back in down there, they back in for the other little coffee shop that's down in there.
And you have pedestrians that are going into the travel lanes because they can't walk in the crosswalk. It's too slippery.
Well, you know, that's just an argument for changing what we're doing. You're arguing that we should change what we're doing, but you're saying leave it, let's table it and not change it.
Well,
because-
I'd say we should have input from all the stakeholders there. You know, whether, you know.
Look, I
engineers.
certainly agree with that in the long run, but we have input, seems like 10 times a week we have input from people there, and it's never consistent. And it's a matter of who's complaining the loudest, really. And I'm sorry, I see it from, all I can do is based on myself. I see it for myself. I do not see how that short-term parking in those two spots in front of that building will impact the deliveries there. I just don't see it. I think you made the right, I think it's the right decision by mistake, because before it was supposed to be across the street, which I had concerns with, but where you're talking about now that we have that easement, I just see that as a plausible solution until some long-term development of that street takes place, long after I'm dead. I just don't see it. I really, I understand, I respect your concerns, and I respect your opinion, but I think that the board voted to have them work it out. I think they've worked it out, and I really think we should let them go through with it and come up with see what they end up with, and rather than table this thing and have them stop. I think we should see what it is first.
Well, can we at least get like a public a public meeting where it's displayed so the stakeholders can.
There's gonna be,
Yeah.
in my view, the public meeting is a selectmen's meeting, so it's gonna come to us a selectmen's meeting, people should show up. I'm sorry, chief, go ahead.
I just have one other question for Chad. This is the first time I've heard this crossing is slippery. That crossing is the same, that all through Main Street, it's the same paint.
Well, I think because it's on such a slope, you know, going down from, you know, the Photo Factory's back entrance, for instance, all to down to the donut cellar, there's that incline right there.
Oh, you're talking about the
green
paved, the paved walkway, not, there's an actual crossing that's painted there as well.
Yeah, the green that's painted green.
The walkway.
Yeah, that walkway, that is, whatever it is.
I can attest to that, because today, I was crossing from, you know, I went up the steps from the parking down below, up the steps across from the,
Miller Cafe, area?
going up above, I was going into the New Hampshire Craftsman. And
Right.
there's a crosswalk there. Most of the paint is gone. Where there was paint, it was slippery as hell.
So we
Almost
need
like
to
that.
address that
Yeah,
in the spring. I mean, there's nothing I think they can do now, but that's,
yeah.
I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yeah, Doug's aware of that issue as well as snowbanks that are accumulating on Mill Street as well. So I think that the plan was to add those clearing the snowbanks when they clear Main Street as well.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't jet out into the street. What do we have for a time frame on when we might be able to have the process as it's going with the engineers kind of displayed to the public or at the selectmen's meeting?
For the final,
Yeah,
or for this short-term temporary?
the
part?
short-term temporary.
I don't know, I've got to get feedback from the engineer for drafting that final design. He's out for a couple of weeks.
I think, what I'd like to see happen is make it a point that when you're ready and when you know it's gonna be on the agenda, I think you should take the step and let the abutters know that that's gonna be on the agenda for the selectmen's meeting, so they can show up and we can all discuss it with everyone
Their
involved.
concerns. Because they're down, as Roger is, they're down there every day and they see stuff, and just because it's on a piece of paper doesn't mean that's.
So I think the plan originally was, you're gonna come back with what we're gonna do, and then we're gonna just go ahead. So I don't think we have to vote on anything, because that was the plan. When you come back, we'll have that discussion.
I have one more comment. When you say abutters, are you talking about the business retail people too? Because some of them don't own property, but certainly they.
Right, I think we're talking about the.
All the stakeholders, whether it's a business owner or a building
The
owner.
people, in particular, in my view, the people who have expressed concerns about what's there now or what's going to be happening.
And
I'd like to just let them know, they can show up and discuss it or not. But
Yeah, and from my experience, it really, like you were saying, from what I've seen, and I'm down there all the time, trying to keep an eye on it, because there's a pinch point between Chudder's and Schilling delivery area.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's pretty often, yeah.
But in the other place down there, where you're back in the Miller's Fair, Schilling's puts picnic tables and everything all the way out through to where the trucks can't back in there in the summertime. Now you got the cab of the truck hanging out, you're gonna put 2 parking spots on the other side. It's just not gonna work.
Where were these
I
2
got
spots going to
pictures
be
to show
moved
you.
again? They were
Well,
on the cellar?
I respectfully disagree. I think it will work. If it turns out it doesn't work, we'll just change it again. We seem to be changing this all the time anyways. But I think it'll work, I really do, at least what I've seen so far.
Friday afternoons, if you sat down there 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon and watched the people that park in front of the brewery to go in and get their 6-pack for the weekend or tasting room, and then also have 2 parking spots on the other side, and trucks trying to get through.
Yep. Well, look, what they're doing is temporarily parking. So they're doing it anyways. Hopefully, if we have spots where they can temporarily park that won't cause the problems, hopefully that will alleviate the problem. I don't know that we should automatically assume that there's temporary parking. That means they're gonna continue to do what's across the street. Hopefully not. And, you know, like Chief said, we can't afford to have a cop down there 24/7.
No, I understand that.
But,
that's for sure.
but I think it's a step that may actually alleviate that problem. Because there is in fact temporary there would be in fact temporary parking in a more appropriate location.
Yeah, I mean, having it, even as part of the final plan, having a designated area saying, here's where deliveries have to be. You know, the interesting observation that I see up there is we have a designated delivery spot on Porter Street. I see this one most often is Gold House Pizza receives heavy deliveries. There's a truck that parks on Porter Street. He takes it by wheel cart up the stairs, step by step by step to Main Street, then up the steps to the front door. And yet we have deliveries on Mill Street that I hear a lot of complaints about, and they're not willing to walk more than 15 feet. It's just is amazing. I think that it's chaos down there, and until we find that this is a temporary solution to the chaos, one piece of it, but the long-range plan would be able to define every space.
In my younger days, I used to do truck deliveries, and I'm curious because I had specific places that I could only deliver at these times, and I had to be there at those times. It wasn't a town ordinance, it was the business that was dictating that. Has anybody tried that, or is anybody doing that?
That's what Frankie does on Main Street.
Yeah, Main Street.
I was gonna say that there's a business specific, I didn't want to get into using names on Main Street, that, you know, quite honestly, the owner worked extremely hard to get all deliveries done during a certain time of day so there wouldn't be an impact on Main Street traffic. But I've also been told that, you know, there's businesses on Mill Street that the freight people won't, they just, at their end of the route, and they don't know when they're gonna be there. So they don't have a specific time. But, you know, the town managers brought up a particular location, identify a different location in town to take the deliveries there and have them transported by van or a smaller vehicle to because a lot of times these trucks that are pulling in, it's not everything that's on that truck that's being offloaded into the business, but they have a specific delivery spot, which isn't uncommon in other major metropolitan areas. You could certainly try something like that here, but there have been other suggestions, and that is one of them, and I think that maybe some hard work with some of the merchants, maybe they can.
And so I know someone would voice, you know, having a common, you know, Chudder's obviously has that one that's designated as a delivery, and having a common space and a shared space. I think Jim's open to that, but I think we just need to have an overall discussion with this overall plan. So if we're having these engineers come to the select board meeting, I take it that's pretty much the next step in these spots. You know, we're gonna have to present.
Let's see what they come back with,
Right.
and then we can still support that or hear what the rest of the feedback we get.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep,
I mean, you know, I just want to say one thing. I mean, if anybody else that business, I went to see him one time, you know, it's anybody else that will have business in Mill Street, if they would have the same problem that Rogers had, in your opinion, Mr. Chairman, don't you think they would be here and just to try to make you or those side, you know, change your mind to accomplish something? Right now, what you've been seeing, what I've been seeing as long as I come over here, just to Rogers to come over here and try to explain to the gentleman that he has a problem over there. It's, you know what I'm trying to say? I mean, we don't see nobody else over here.
yeah, well, I won't speak about people's motives. I don't know whether they would come or not. I hope they do come
Yeah.
to the next meeting. or
If
to
they
that
would have a
meeting.
problem, don't you think they would be here?
No, because we hear, and well, besides that, people have expressed their concern and their problem,
By
just not at the
writing.
meeting.
By writing.
Yeah, well, not to me, but apparently to you, and I think to Carrie, but nobody talks to me, so I don't.
I would get in trouble.
So, yeah, I won't speak to other people's motives. There are concerns, they're legitimate concerns. I wouldn't think just because Roger's the only one here, that he's the only one that has an issue with it. I don't think that's the case.
Definitely not. There's a lot of concern down there.
Okay?
Hey,
You said
You had another one?
Yeah, well, what is, we tabled a bid for a property at a meeting, and we never, we were gonna check on what the
The
assessment.
amount was, yeah,
$3,800.
the $3,800 bid. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we're not in a position to deal with it because we're,
What's that?
The property was valued at just, the outstanding taxes was $39.27 or something like
Yeah, I'll have to
that.
check with,
we're not, I don't think, we'd have to go on memory now, I don't wanna do that, but I don't wanna lose sight of it, because we
Right.
tabled it and it's just sitting there, so can you make sure it gets on,
Yes.
we're prepared for the next
Yeah.
agenda, for the next.
Are there any other outstanding property ones? I remember there was the end of Bishop Street. I think are we just gonna,
that one.
was that tabled or I don't know if we need to vote on officially?
I think we only tabled one.
Yeah, the one, well, this was before.
Bishop Street was in like
So,
April and
Yeah,
then.
at the end of Bishop Street, we received an offer on the piece of property, but,
I thought we had tabled it. I don't know if we ever actually, we probably should take action on it at
Yeah.
some point.
And, yeah, because we tried to get hold of the bidder multiple times, they were unresponsive. We wanted to keep an easement on the property.
Yeah, I remember that, they just fall apart,
Yeah,
so we should,
yeah.
We gotta-
That was that tabled as well.
that was tabled because you.
We were gonna find out, is it better to do like a hammerhead or something at the end and keep it versus,
Yeah.
We tabled it, I'm remembering now, we tabled it because you wanted to investigate further what our needs were there, and then it never came back.
Right, so we knew our needs, but we wanted to see if they were open to it, that as part of the bid,
Yeah.
and they never responded.
Okay.
So, yeah, we should probably-
we could bring that back up with the,
Well,
I'll show you,
or we've got to reissue, rebid
rebid.
that or something,
Yeah.
if they're not. I don't have anything else for old business. Any new business, nothing else?
Nothing else.
Any other, there's no Board of Assessors. Any other public comments?
yes, Mr. Chairman, I just, I talked with the town manager one time, it's just, this is a kind of an idea of how we can probably increase some revenue for the town without hurting anybody's pocket very deeply. My concern is this, you know, if it, just in case, you know, it would come the time that get lucky and maybe get elected, get lucky. But anyway, it's something that eventually, on this particular subject, you will have, not just you, him, and you know, you're gonna have a problem with the people that got a business in ministry because of that. But in the other hand, if you really, you know, just try to put everything together I mean, I've heard, that's my opinion anyway.
So
It should be good for the town that, something like this eventually.
So we have fines for most of these items anyways already. You're suggesting that we raise them to these rates? Is that what you're saying?
Could be.
Yeah, okay.
I
We just
know-
recently increased our fines.
Yeah, and so we did a study on the fines. One thing that we're looking at still is the fees, just to see, the regular
Fees.
parking fees. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, per
The
in
20
order.
cents.
Yeah, but this is fines, not fees,
Yeah.
right?
I mean,
Okay,
it's
thank
just a
you.
suggestion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sent out the seat.
Oh, yeah.
That's what's been the DEA. I don't know if we should bring it up now or at another meeting. I mean, if we're gonna put it on the warrant next year, that's another.
Yeah, so what I'm, right now, I have a call scheduled tomorrow with Barbara. Yeah. Where she's gonna explain that a little further. I don't want to talk about what you know about it at all, but.
Can we wait until we're ready to put it on the agenda? 'Cause-
Yeah.
Next thing on the, more public comments, so we have the minutes from November 25th. I have a couple of items. I think under the first item, appointments, it makes it look like Milt and Joanna were both here, but remember Milt couldn't make it. I think maybe we should say Milton Bratz could not attend or something like that, so it doesn't look like he was at that meeting.
No, it was not.
Another item, and this is probably what was said, but on the second page, the third paragraph, I think it's short-term parking, not short-time parking, right? And I'm sure it was said down here on the motion, at the bottom of that same paragraph, Stearns made the motion to approve the temporary parking. We're not talking about temporary parking, we're talking about short-term parking. So I think, he probably said temporary, we missed it, because you have it on tape,
Yeah.
but I'm sure the intent was short-term.
Okay, short term,
Yeah.
not temp, okay.
Those are the only things I had on minutes.
I'm good on minutes. There wasn't anything else that I saw.
So,
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of November 25th as amended.
second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. That's all set, and I think,
Let me just call them up.
yeah, sure.
All right, Seal, can you come up? Please?
Uh-huh.
Can you come up, please?
I don't like going up
Well,
there. I can't.
All right, you go up.
all right, I'll go up to you. Well, on behalf of the board, we just want to give you a Christmas present and thank you for everything that you do for us and keeping us out of trouble and making sure everything looks good and looks
you.
correct. And we just really appreciate everything you do
All
for us.
right.
Thank you, Seal.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Seal.
much,
Christmas.
guys.
With that, I think we're ready to close. All right, meeting adjourned.